Welcome everyone to another few minutes with Gordon Olszewski. Gordon, how's it going, buddy?
I'm good. How about you, Timmy?
I'm all right. It's good to see you again. Gordon, you know how this works. We're going to ask you questions about yourself, about your rugby background, and we'll have some fun with it. What do you say?
I'm up for it, buddy. Let's do it.
All right. So first question, Gordon, where are you from originally?
Born and bred in Montreal. Uh, been living in Dorval most of my life, so where I'm born and bred.
Fantastic. Now, when you think of the West Island, you think about, St. Anne's has a rugby team out there. The Barbs have a rugby team out there. So to lead us into our first question, and our second question, really, when did you start playing rugby?
I actually started playing when I was in high school. I went to St. Thomas in Pointe Claire, and I actually started playing in high school, and then after high school, I didn't really play, but then it was when I was back in 2011, I started playing for the Montreal Irish.
Okay. So you talked about playing at St. Thomas, which is a great sports school in general, and a really good rugby school. But how did you get into it? Was there a sign up? Was there a friend playing with it? Tell us about that.
Actually, a friend of mine who I played rugby with back at St. Thomas, he was looking to join the Montreal Barbarians. And because I didn't really know much other clubs in the West Island, and then I knew a friend of mine, everyone knows Brandon Tennant. Everyone knows him as Grandma.
Grandma, yeah.
I was good friends with him I'm good friends with him. So when I first told him that I was planning on joining the Barbarians because I knew he played rugby, right off the bat was, no, you're not going to do that. You're going to join the Montreal Irish with me. And I kind of looked at Grandma, and you know how big he is, eh? So 6'2", 6'3", 300 pounds back, 315 pounds back then. So, all right, I'd rather not play against him. So, all right, I'll join him.
You don't say no to that kind of body shape. You never say no.
No, I never said no to Grandma. So, but what he said went, and that was it. And he said, I'll hook you up. I'll tell you where we're training, this and that. And the rest is history.
I think one thing that people may not realize about Grandma is that he's a bit silver tongued. He's really persuasive. He can be. He doesn't need his size necessarily. He can talk you into he can talk an Eskimo into buying an ice box.
Oh, it's true. And
so you talked about playing rugby in high school. Were there any other sports that you played growing up?
I played hockey as well. I touched a couple sports here and there, just for fun and stuff like that. But hockey was my other big sport.
Okay. So now, thinking about hockey, I mean, I grew up playing hockey as well. Most people probably listening to this have seen or played the sport for sure. How do you think that helped you transitioning into rugby? Did you take any skills from hockey to rugby?
I think it was a lot of the athleticism helped me a lot. I was in pretty decent shape when I started playing rugby. So, I was very active, played sports every day, stuff like that. So, and then going into rugby, I was already athletic. So just going into rugby was just, the plus playing rugby was I got to hit people. So it helped.
You're right. I mean, the physicality of hockey transfers well over into rugby as well. Let's go back for a bit here to your first games and practices with the Irish. What was your first thought when you joined the club?
I remember my first game. It was a preseason game at Catalonia in Lachine indoor. And I remember they threw me in the backs and just I knew I wasn't sure of the place. So the moment I heard hands, I knew exactly where it was going and just through the hands and stuff like that. And because I had played in high school, there was a bit of a gap between high school and when I joined the Irish, about 4 years. So it was just trying to remember everything, the rules and stuff like that. And after that, it just went smoothly after that. And although I did get a black eye in my first game with the Irish, so I'll never forget that.
I mean, it's a good story to tell.
I
mean, that is a good one. You think back, preseason's the best time for anyone to learn,
exactly.
A new sport. You can kind of make that mistake, and hey, if you get a black eye out of it, you get something to talk to your friends about, right? Kind of like a badge of honor.
That's it. Yeah, exactly.
All right. So let's think about now. You played got to be 6, 7, 8 years with the club?
I played about 7 years with the Irish.
Yeah.
So
So think back to those 7 years, to your best memory as a rugby player. What would that have been?
I think my best memory, I it was winning the championship with the seconds.
Mhm.
I remember because we had played the year before. I believe it was 20. Um, I believe it was 2014 or 2015. I believe was the year. I remember the year before we had lost in the finals against St. Anne de Bellevue, and the year after, I remember one of my best friends actually, Clint. I trained with him, and I was doing everything I could to try and train for that championship game, knowing that we had a good chance of making it again. And I remember going into that game pumped up like you wouldn't believe, Timmy. I mean, I had a 5-hour energy shot and a Red Bull before the game, and I ate well before the game, so I'd have tons of energy for it. And then at halftime, took another 5-hour energy shot just to pack through the game. Yeah, I know. 10 hours, you'd wonder, plus the Red Bull on top of that. But I'm telling you, Timmy, I've never ran like that in my life. And I was pumped for that game, and we came out on top. So it was all worth it. That was one of my best memories ever with the club.
And I remember that transition from that season 2014 2015 when you came back and you had spent that off-season training with Clint. You know, there's a noticeable difference in the caliber and the way you played. I do remember that progression being amazing, and that year, it just a stalwart as in our forward pack as a leader. It was really great seeing you in those positions. Although I think 9 out of 10 doctors would not recommend taking 2 5-hour energy drinks and a Red Bull. You were
Definitely.
probably seeing sounds at that point. You know?
I wasn't seeing sounds, but Monica and Amanda both gave me a good talking to after the game, and you know they were very happy that my heart didn't stop during the game. But I mean,
well, it probably
like
did
I said,
at one point.
It could have either being tackled or tackling someone, but we came out on top, and to me, like it was all worth it. You know what I mean? But the championship was won, so in my mind, like I said, it was all worth it.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you remember that winning that cup, absolutely. Yeah. And the fact that you're still here to talk with us about it is amazing, despite the 10 hours plus Red Bull. So thinking about pregame rituals like drinking 5-hour energies and Red Bulls, think about if you had any teammates or even yourself, any superstitions or routines that you noticed or that someone did in and around you when you played.
For me personally, I made sure I ate well, and drank a lot of water the day of, and we'd play on Saturdays, right? So the night before, it was, I know you're gonna look at me and be like, Christ, Gordy, but it was a given. It was either a Rocky movie or Remember the Titans or some sports movie that really got the blood pumping the night before. And when I woke up the morning of, ate well, and I just had that movie replaying in my mind the whole time, and that way I go into the game pumped up, and just keep a cool head on the day, and try not to get not too into it, but not get too pumped up that I'd start making mistakes and stuff like that, but just pumped up enough that I was ready to go.
Yeah, I can still remember you driving up when I was walking down the driveway at St. Julie, and you lowering your window, and then I think you had the Gettysburg speech from Remember the Titans playing in the car, and that's one of the memories I have of you. But it's funny how that, like you said, that motivated you. That's what you had in your mind, and that kept you focused, and that drive was there. It's fantastic. It's a great ritual. I mean, that you've kept on and that you've had and that worked for you. It's really good. I like it. You talked about pregame meals and eating well. What's something you would have eaten as a pregame meal?
Something as a pregame meal that I would normally eat. Usually I woke up in the morning and I had a bowl of oatmeal with some fruit and my regular coffee, stuff like that. And then before the game, usually I'd eat some mixed nuts and fruits, and then an egg sandwich or something like that, just to keep the energy going. And usually I'd eat a banana or an apple before the game, and then that would keep me going.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we've heard a lot. I mean, obviously we're athletes, so we're trying to stay healthy as much as we can. Not a lot of junk's going into our body, especially pregame. But you're saying a lot of the same things that others have said, and we've set that as a standard. Or eating
Mhm.
well and being light pregame. You don't want to be run down and be too heavy.
Yeah.
Really neat. So, Gord, you joined our club, in your 20s, right?
Mhm.
What would you say? What would you tell someone, that's thinking about joining the Irish or thinking about playing rugby? What would you tell them as a selling point?
Even through the years, you would know this as well. Like guys that have come into the club right off the bat have never played rugby in their lives, or a guy of or friends of friends that have come into club and practice and stuff like that. Right off the bat, I'd be like, first of all, you chose a great club to play with. And in the sense that some clubs they have it in their head that they're the best, and they're not snobbish, but some of them have that attitude that we're better than everybody. Whereas in the Irish, I found there was none of that whatsoever. Everyone was welcoming. Everyone was really down to earth. Nice people that you can actually like, people that you wouldn't be shy to approach. You know what I mean, and ask them a question. So most of the time, like whenever a new guy showed up or whatever like that, I would introduce myself right off the bat and be like, look, you made a good decision. You know what I mean? If you have any questions, this or that, don't be shy. There's no such thing as a stupid question either, especially when you're first starting out as a rugby player. Um, like some guys, they might know the rules. Some guys, it's usually a mix, but most of the time you just try and keep it basic right off the bat.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. I mean, that's one thing that I think any club needs to be is welcoming, right? And that's how we have that influx of new talent and new members that come in and that feel welcome. The only reason they would stay it isn't necessarily because they're winning rugby games. It's because they feel welcome and they feel like they're part of the community. I recall a lot of times whenever we had new members come to practice, you were one of the first people to go and say hi and to make them feel welcome, just like we did with any new people that came in. It's important to build that relationship off the bat.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, Gord. The last question from me would be: through all the sports you've played, through living here for your whole life, who would your favorite athlete have been, or it still is?
I'd say right off the bat, Clinton Tofa is one of my favorite athletes with the club.
The legend.
Uh, a legend with the club, in my personal opinion. I'm sure if we had a Hall of Fame, he'd be in it eventually, 100%. My favorite athlete, I don't really have a favorite particular athlete. I mean, you always have, the legends of the sport and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But I don't think I could actually say that I have one particular athlete that I um, take a favor to over others.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, Clint, Mr. Yellow Card himself.
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
100%. Yeah,
a great guy to look after. I mean, I know you guys have been close for a long time, and I know that like I said, you both worked together in the off season and built that bond. So that's an
yeah.
excellent answer.
Um,
Well, go ahead, Gordon.
um, like even from the first year that I joined the club, Clint kind of took me under his wing, like after the first season, and like because we also live close together, so like even like on the way to rugby, I'd pick him up. You know what I mean? So we talk about rugby, like stuff to do during which play, stuff like that,
Mhm.
what to do on the field, where to look, where to be. In the off season, like we'd go to the gym together and train together. So it was, whenever I could learn something from him, I took advantage of that. You know what I mean? And he's a big reason why I am the player that I played as.
Yeah, and that friendship, budded as well as and worked well together as a mentorship as well. I mean,
Yeah, 100%.
really
Yeah.
neat, and I think that's fantastic. Clint is a great guy to get any kind of detail from. He's got such a mind for it, and he's just a great guy in general, as you
Yeah.
know, everyone knows. That's fantastic. Gord, that's it. Was it painful? Did I bite? Was that
Not
okay?
at all. No.
Thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it. Thanks, man.
Anytime, Tim. No problem.
All
Always
right.
there for the club.
Thanks again.